During the apartheid era in South Africa, there were several significant uprisings and events that played a pivotal role in the resistance against apartheid. These events challenged the apartheid regime, raised international awareness of the oppressive system, and contributed to the eventual dismantlement of apartheid. I have compiled three of the major events that I would say, right, needs to be expounded in Cape History Unit 2. Firstly, the Sharpeville Massacre of 1960. The Sharpeville Massacre took place on March the 21st, 1960 in the town of Sharpeville, South Africa. Peaceful protesters had gathered to demonstrate against the past laws, which were a system of internal passports that restricted the movement of black South Africans. The past laws were a symbol of apartheid regime's control and dehumanization of black people. During the protests, the South African police, armed with rifles, confronted the crowd. As tensions escalated, the police opened fire on the protesters, resulting in the deaths of 69 people, including women and children, and the injuries of hundreds more. The indiscriminate and brutal nature of the police response shook the nation and the world. The Sharpeville Massacre marked a turning point in the anti-apartheid struggle. It galvanized international condemnation of apartheid, bringing global attention to the repressive policies of the South African government. The incident led to the widespread protests and unrest within South Africa and sparked international solidarity with the anti-apartheid movement. In response to the Sharpeville Massacre, the apartheid governments declared a state of emergency, and both the African National Congress (ANC) and the Pan-Africanist Congress (PAC) were banned. The banning of these organizations drove the leaders and members underground into exile, intensifying the commitment of the struggle against apartheid. Next would be the Soweto Uprising of 1976. The Soweto Uprising, which began in June 1976, was a pivotal event in the anti-apartheid movement, particularly involving the youth of South Africa. The trigger for the uprising was the government's decision to enforce Afrikaans as the primary language of instruction in black schools, further marginalizing black students and limiting their access to the quality of education. This could be attributed under the Bantu Education Act, if we look closer to that. On June the 16th, 1976, thousands of students in Soweto, a township in Johannesburg, took to the streets to protest against the imposition of Afrikaans and demand equal education rights. The students organized peaceful marches but were met with violent responses from the South African police. The police used tear gas, rubber bullets, and live ammunition to suppress the protests. The brutality of the police sparked widespread outrage and resistance. The uprising quickly spread to other parts of South Africa, igniting a wave of student-led protests, boycotts, and strikes across the country. The Soweto Uprising became a symbol of the youth's resistance to apartheid and the oppressive education system. It highlighted the inherent inequalities and injustices of the apartheid regime, drawing international attention and support for the anti-apartheid movement. The events in Soweto propelled the struggle against apartheid to a new level, inspiring a generation of activists and strengthening the resolve to dismantle the apartheid system. Lastly, the Durban Strikes from 1973 to 1974. The Durban Strikes, which occurred between these years, were significant labor protests that took place primarily in Durban's industrial sector. Tens of thousands of workers, mainly black, went on strike to demand better wages, improved working conditions, and an end to the oppressive labor practices perpetuated by the apartheid regime. The strikes in Durban soon spread to other industrial areas across South Africa, resulting in widespread disruptions to key industries and economic activities. The strike actions showcased the power of labor movement in challenging the apartheid regime's economic policies and exploitative practices. The Durban Strikes demonstrated the unity and solidarity of workers in their struggle against the apartheid and economic oppression. The strikes highlighted the fundamental roles that workers played in the anti-apartheid movement and brought attention to the systemic exploitation of black workers under apartheid. These events not only challenged the apartheid regime, but also played a crucial role in mobilizing and galvanizing resistance within South Africa and garnering international support for the dismantlement of this apartheid regime.